This Christmas was supposed to be simple. Hot cocoa, the grandkids opening presents, and maybe a quiet dinner. But instead, I ended up standing in my son's hallway, holding a plate of cookies, while my daughter-in-law looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Honestly, the greatest gift you could give us is disappearing." I laughed at first. I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. And the crazy part is, that little comment, yeah, it blew open a truth this family had been hiding for years, one that left all of us shattered by the end of the night. So here's what really happened. When Claire told me the best Christmas gift would be me disappearing, the words stuck to my skin like cold air in December. They didn't hurt all at once. It was more like a slow burn, a late sting after a slap you didn't see coming. I just stood there in the hallway, holding that plate of Christmas cookies like some awkward guest who wandered into the wrong house. I'd driven 23 minutes in light snow that morning, humming along to Mariah Carey, thinking this year would finally be peaceful. But Claire's face told a different story. Tight jaw, eyes narrowed, like she'd been waiting to say this. "Claire," I managed quietly, "I'm not sure what you mean by disappear." "Oh, come on," she snapped, waving her hand like she was brushing away a fly. "Let's not play dumb, okay? You know exactly what I mean." Even the way she said dumb hit wrong, like she'd been wanting to call me that for years. I glanced toward the living room. The Christmas tree glowed soft yellow, the grandkids were on the carpet with wrapping paper everywhere, and Daniel, my son, was laughing at something on the TV. Everything looked normal, warm, safe, almost made me wonder if I imagined the whole thing. But then Claire leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper sharp enough to cut glass. "You being here ruins everything for me, for this family." At that point, the cookies trembled in my hands. I swallowed hard. "Claire, I'm just here for Christmas, like every year." "Yeah," she muttered, rolling her eyes. "And it's been too many years." Something inside me cracked. Not enough to break, but enough to bend. I forced myself to breathe. "Where's all this coming from?" She shrugged, arms crossed. "You want to talk about this? Fine, let's talk. Just not in front of him." "Him?" I blinked. "Who? Daniel?" "No," she hissed. "In front of your precious granddaughter. She's already obsessed with you. Last thing I need is her thinking you're some sort of hero." There it was, the jealousy she never hid well. I cleared my throat and kept my voice steady. "I'm her grandmother. Of course she loves me." "Yeah," Claire scoffed, "and she listens to you more than she listens to her own mother. Do you know how annoying that is?" I didn't answer, because there was no right answer. She stepped back, arms still folded tightly. "You come here every year acting like this house is yours. Like we're just background characters in your little grandma fantasy." I blinked slowly. "Claire, I brought cookies." She let out a dry laugh. "Exactly." I didn't know what to say to that. For a few seconds, we just stood there, staring at each other in this awkward Christmas morning standoff. The sound of the kids laughing in the next room suddenly felt far away. Then she leaned in one more time. "Just do us all a favor, okay? After today, just go. Don't come back. Not next year, not ever." This time, the sting landed hard. I didn't cry, not then, but something inside me shifted. Like a puzzle piece that had never quite fit finally snapped into place, revealing a picture I didn't want to see. Finally, I found my voice. "Does Daniel know you feel this way?" Her lips curled into a smirk. "Why do you think I'm saying it when he's not around?" That answered everything. Behind us, I heard tiny footsteps. "Grandma?" It was Lily, her voice soft, curious, unaware of the adult storm brewing 3 feet above her head. I turned, plastering on a smile that felt fake even to me. "Hey, sweetheart." She ran up and wrapped her arms around my leg. "Mommy said you were bringing the good cookies." Claire let out a sharp exhale, like she couldn't believe the timing. I gently placed the plate into Lily's hands and patted her hair. "Go share them," I whispered. When she ran off, I turned back to Claire. Her face was stiff, annoyed, but there was something else there too. Something uneasy. Because no matter how much she disliked me, she knew the kids loved me. And kids notice things adults try to hide. I stepped forward just a little. "You don't have to like me," I said quietly. "But you don't get to erase me." She was opening her mouth to reply, probably something sharp, when Daniel walked around the corner. "Hey," he smiled. "You guys okay?" Claire straightened instantly, sugar-sweet smile painted on like makeup. "Oh, we're great, babe, just talking about cookies." I forced a smile to match, though my chest felt heavy. Daniel kissed her cheek, then looked at me. "You good, Mom?" I nodded, because what else was I supposed to say? But Claire was staring at me, eyes cold behind her fake smile. And that's when I realized she didn't just want me gone, she wanted me invisible. The rest of the morning played out like some awkward holiday sitcom. Kids laughing, wrapping paper everywhere, eggnog in mismatched mugs, and me pretending nothing was wrong. But Claire didn't stop. Every time Daniel looked away, she'd shoot me this little smirk like she was daring me to say something. Or she'd whisper snide comments under her breath. At one point, when I reached for the gravy at dinner, she muttered, "Bet you're gonna spill it." I didn't. But that wasn't the point. Daniel didn't notice. Or maybe he didn't want to. And the whole time, my granddaughter kept glancing at me like she felt something was off. Kids are weirdly good at reading the room. After dinner, I stepped outside to get some air. The cold was crisp, quiet, easier to breathe in. I barely got a minute before the sliding door opened and Claire stepped out. She crossed her arms, rubbing them like she was cold, even though she had a blanket wrapped around her. "Don't act like I ruined your Christmas," she said out of nowhere. I sighed. "Claire, I don't want to fight with you." "Then leave." My heart sank. "Why do you hate me so much?" She scoffed. "Don't flatter yourself. I don't hate you. I just..." She hesitated. And for the first time all day, she didn't look angry. She looked tired, hollow, broken in a way I didn't understand. "I just need space," she muttered. "From everything." Before I could respond, Lily's voice carried through the door. "Mom, Grandma, look what I drew." I turned to see her holding a piece of paper, a family picture she'd drawn herself. 4 stick figures. Daniel, Claire, Lily, and me. Holding Lily's hand, Claire's face tightened. She didn't yell, she didn't snap, she just whispered, almost too quietly to hear. "Of course she drew you." Then she walked back inside, leaving the door half open behind her. And that's when I felt it, a shift, a crack, a sense that something underneath this family wasn't just tense, it was broken. I stepped back inside to hang Lily's drawing on the fridge. When I closed the fridge door, I caught Claire watching me from across the room. She wasn't angry, she wasn't jealous, she looked scared. And that scared me too, because people only look like that when they're hiding something big, something I wasn't supposed to find out. Not tonight, not on Christmas, not ever. The rest of Christmas night carried on like everyone was acting in the same play, except none of us agreed on the script. The kids were happy, Daniel was relaxed, Claire kept floating around the house like she was hosting a holiday cooking show. And me? I felt like a ghost drifting from room to room, visible but not really seen. After dinner, Daniel put on a Christmas movie for the kids. Elf, I think. Something loud and goofy. Lily curled up next to me with a blanket, her tiny head resting on my arm. Claire watched us from the doorway, not glaring, not annoyed, just watching. That made me even more uneasy. Around 8 p.m, Daniel went outside to shovel the walkway before the snow froze. He always was the responsible one. The moment the front door shut, Claire moved fast, almost too fast. "Lily," she called sweetly, "why don't you go show Grandma your new art set?" "In your room." Lily hopped up immediately. "Come on, Grandma!" I followed her down the hallway, smiling for her sake, even though my stomach was tight. She sat on the carpet and dumped out markers, glitter pens, neon stickers. The works. I knelt beside her, letting her talk about which colours were the sparkliest. But the whole time, a tightness sat in my chest. Something in the house felt wrong. Footsteps sounded behind us. Claire. Lily, sweetheart, Mommy needs to talk to Grandma for a minute, okay? Lily nodded and started doodling again. Claire shut the door halfway. Then she whispered, "Don't get too comfortable." I turned sharply. "What is your problem with me?" "My problem," she hissed, "is that you think you can just step into this house and act like... Like what? Like a grandmother? Claire, I'm not doing anything wrong. You exist," she spat, "and that's enough." That one hit harder than I expected. I opened my mouth to respond, but something interrupted us. A vibration, a faint buzz, a phone, not mine, not Daniel's. Claire froze. Her eyes flicked to the hall closet. Then she whispered, barely audible, "Shit." Before I could ask, she darted down the hallway and yanked the closet door open. A phone, her phone, sat on top of the winter blankets, screen glowing. If she left it in there, it meant she didn't want someone seeing something. "Claire?" I said, stepping forward. She snatched it up like a kid caught stealing candy. "Mind your business." But something was off. Her hands were shaking. Her face was pale. And even though she tried to hide the screen, I caught a glimpse. Unknown number. "We need to talk." You promised her. Promised who? Talk about what? Who was she hiding messages from on Christmas night? Before I could process it, Claire stormed past me into the master bedroom and slammed the door. I stood alone in the hallway, heart thumping in my ears. This wasn't just jealousy, wasn't just dislike. This was fear, panic, secrets, real ones. Lily peeked out of her room. "Grandma, Mummy's mad, huh?" I kept my voice soft. "No, baby, she's just stressed." Lily frowned a little. "Mommy cries at night." That froze me in place. "She does?" I asked gently. "Yeah." Lily nodded. "Sometimes she goes in the bathroom and runs the shower, but I can still hear her." A cold chill spread through me. Kids see everything, even when we think we're hiding it. Before I could ask more, the front door opened and Daniel's voice carried from the entryway. "Mom? Claire? Everything good?" Claire burst out of the bedroom, wiping under her eyes fast like she was trying to erase the evidence. "Oh, yeah, all good," she said too cheerfully. Daniel kissed her forehead. She stiffened. That wasn't normal. He turned to me. "You hungry, Mom? I can heat up leftovers." I shook my head. "Just tired?" Daniel nodded and walked past us, humming to himself. Claire didn't move. She just stared at him walking away, her expression unreadable. Then she whispered, more to herself than to me, "You have no idea, do you?" I stepped closer. "No idea about what, Claire?" She didn't answer, just brushed past me to the kitchen. But I knew that look. I'd seen it in people who were carrying heavy truths, the kind that crush you if you don't let them out. Around 10 p.m, the kids were tucked in, and I was gathering my coat from the guest room. I wasn't planning to stay the night anymore. Not after everything. Daniel caught me in the hallway. "You're leaving?" he asked, confused. "Yeah, sweetheart, it's late. And roads might freeze." He frowned. "Mom? You always stay Christmas night?" I forced a smile. "Not this year." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Did Claire say something?" I hesitated, lied. No, it's fine." But Daniel wasn't stupid. He scanned my face like he was taking mental notes. "You sure?" "Positive." He didn't believe me. I could see it, but he didn't push. "Okay, well, text me when you get home, all right?" he said softly. I nodded. Behind us, from the living room, I heard Claire's voice. "Daniel, can you help me with something?" He shot me one more look, a worried one, then walked away. I grabbed my purse, slipped my arms through my coat, opened the front door, and heard something faint barely a whisper, from the living room. Claire's voice, sharp, breaking, not angry, scared. "Danny, please, I can't do this anymore." I froze, not because she was crying, though that alone was shocking, but because of what she said next. The words were quiet, shaky, but unmistakable. "I think your mom, she's going to find out about her." My whole body went cold. Her? Who was her? I leaned just slightly into the hallway, and not enough to be seen, but enough to hear. Daniel's voice came next, low and confused. "Claire, what are you talking about?" There was a beat of silence, like she was choking on her own words. Then Claire whispered, "I mean, your sister." My hand tightened on the doorknob. My chest tightened too. Because Daniel didn't have a sister. He never did. At least, that's what I thought. I stayed utterly still, not breathing, not blinking. Then Daniel spoke again, voice barely audible. "Claire, we agreed never to bring that up." My stomach dropped, hard. My ears started ringing. A sister? A her I was never told about? A secret my own son kept from me? Claire took a shaky breath. That was before she started poking around, before she started noticing things, before she found the paper. Paper? My knees nearly buckled. Claire kept going, voice cracking. "I'm scared she's going to find out the truth, Danny. I'm scared she's going to hate you for it." My heart slammed against my ribs. Hate him for what? For hiding a daughter? For giving someone up? For lying to me? Daniel's response came after a long, heavy pause. "I'm not scared of Mom finding out," he said quietly. Another pause. "I'm scared of what she'll think when she finds out why." That was it. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Because this wasn't about Claire anymore. Wasn't about jealousy. Wasn't about cookies or Christmas or old grudges. This was something deeper, darker, older, a truth my son kept from me for years, and one Claire never wanted me to hear. My hands were shaking so badly I had to lean on the wall to stay steady. I backed away quietly, slipping out the door into the cold night. When I reached my car, I exhaled for the first time in minutes. Claire didn't want me gone because she hated me. She wanted me gone because she was terrified I would uncover something buried deep in this family. Something Daniel thought he'd hidden forever. Something about a daughter I never knew existed. And I realized then, this wasn't the beginning of a family fight. This was the beginning of a truth big enough to tear all of us apart. The drive home that night felt like drifting through fog. Even though the roads were clear, my mind kept replaying the same words. "Your mom. She's going to find out about her. We agreed never to bring that up. I'm scared of what she'll think when she finds out why." I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my fingers hurt. A sister? A daughter? Someone they hid from me? The whole idea felt impossible. My son, the boy who used to cry when he broke a toy, kept something this huge from me? Why? When I got home, I didn't cry. I just sat on the couch with the Christmas tree lights flickering in the dark. Around midnight, I finally texted Daniel. "Made it home safe. Love you." He replied 2 minutes later, "Love you too, Mom." Short, soft, normal. But things were no longer normal, not even close. The next morning I woke with that same ache in my chest, like my heart was bruised. I made coffee, sat at the dining table, and stared at the steam rising from the mug. My hands were still shaking. I needed answers. But if I confronted Daniel without thinking it through, he'd shut down. He always did when things got heavy. And Claire? I didn't trust her to tell the truth even if I asked nicely. But there was one person who might know at least part of the story. Lily. Kids don't hide things well, especially when they overhear adults. I hated the idea of putting a child in the middle, but I didn't want to interrogate her. Just ask. So around 11 a.m., I called Daniel. He answered on the third ring, sounding tired. "Hey, Mom." "Hey, how's everything this morning?" "Good. Kids are playing." Claire's sleeping. Late night, I guess. Late night. Yeah, crying in the living room will do that. Mind if I stop by for a little bit? I asked casually. There was a pause. Today? Yes, if that's okay. He hesitated again. Too long to be normal. Sure, he finally said. Come by. When I arrived, Lily ran to me immediately, hugging my legs like she hadn't seen me in years. Grandma! Grandma! Look, I made a snowflake! She shouted, waving a wrinkled piece of paper covered in glitter. I smiled and kissed the top of her head. Daniel was in the kitchen making coffee. He looked worn out. Eyes tired. Shoulders heavy. You okay? I asked. Yeah, just didn't sleep much. I nodded like I believed him. He handed me a mug. What's up, Mom? You sounded off on the phone. I took a breath. Can we talk privately? He froze. A flash of worry crossed his face. Then, almost instantly, he hid it, like he'd practiced it. Sure, he said tightly. Let's go outside. We stepped onto the back porch, cold air brushing our faces. He leaned against the railing, arms crossed. So? He asked. What's going on? I looked at him. My son, the kid who used to bring me dandelions from the yard like they were roses, and I didn't know where to begin. So I started softly. Sweetheart, last night I heard something. His jaw tensed. What did you hear? Claire said something about her, and she said you agreed never to bring it up, and that I'd hate you for the reason. Daniel's face drained of color. Mom, I'm not angry, I whispered. I'm confused and scared, and I need you to tell me the truth. Daniel looked down at his hands, rubbed the back of his neck, exhaled slowly. There was a long silence before he finally said, I wasn't planning to tell you ever. My heart clenched. Tell me what? He swallowed hard. I had a daughter. Before Lily. I blinked. My breath caught. A daughter, I whispered. Daniel nodded once. She would have been 11. My legs felt weak. I grabbed the porch railing to steady myself. Where is she? I asked, voice barely there. Where's my granddaughter? Daniel squeezed his eyes shut. She passed away. The world stopped. My stomach twisted so violently I had to sit down. Daniel, I whispered, voice cracking. Why didn't you tell me? He didn't look up, because I only knew about her for a few months before she died. What? I choked. He nodded, tears forming. I didn't even know she existed. Her mom never told me. Not until after she got sick. My chest tightened. Her mom? Sick? What happened? I asked shakily. Daniel finally met my eyes, and the pain there was so raw it made my heart twist. Her name was Emily. Her mom, Sarah, she and I dated in college for like 4 months. Nothing serious. We broke up. I never heard from her again. He swallowed. Then, out of nowhere, she reached out when I was 28. Said Emily was sick, cancer, and that she wanted me to meet her. A tear slipped down his cheek. I met my daughter for the first time in a hospital room. I pressed my hand to my mouth. Oh my God. She was small, bald, sweet. She called me Dad on the second day. He wiped his face quickly, embarrassed. She died 8 weeks later. I sat beside him on the porch steps. I didn't touch him. He's always been private when he cries. But I stayed close. Daniel, I whispered, why didn't you tell me? I could have. What? He snapped suddenly. Helped? Fixed it? Made it easier? Mom, I didn't want anyone's help. I didn't even know her. And then she was gone. And I felt guilty. Like I didn't deserve to grieve her because I barely knew her. His voice cracked. And I didn't want to drag you into that pain. Tears filled my eyes. Sweetheart, you shouldn't have carried that alone. He shook his head. I didn't tell you because I was ashamed. Of what? I asked, stunned. That I had a child I didn't know about. That she died before I could do anything. That Claire found out about her before you did. That I kept it secret. I inhaled sharply. Claire knew. He nodded. She found the paperwork one day, the medical forms, the death certificate. My throat tightened. "So she knew your pain," I whispered. He nodded again, wiping his face. "She didn't hate you, Mom. She was scared you'd find the papers and ask questions. And she thought if you found out before I was ready, you'd resent me." I blinked hard, tears streaming. "Daniel, I would never resent you." He looked at me, finally, really looked. And, for the first time in years, I saw the scared boy he used to be. "I know," he whispered, "but I didn't know that then." We sat in silence for a long time. Cold air around us, heavy truth between us. Pain that didn't belong to anyone, but touched all of us anyway. Finally, I asked, "Where are the papers now?" Daniel stared at the wooden deck. "In the hall closet, in the top drawer, behind the blankets." My heart dropped. That was where Claire's phone buzzed last night. She wasn't hiding from me. She was hiding the paperwork. She was trying to protect Daniel. I felt a wave of shame for assuming the worst of her, for thinking she hated me for no reason. "But why did she tell me to disappear?" I whispered. Daniel exhaled. "She didn't mean it the way it sounded, Mum. She's been struggling with anxiety, serious anxiety. After Emily's death, it messed me up, and Claire felt like she had to be strong for me, for years." He sighed deeply. "When she thought you were going to stumble into the truth before I was ready, she panicked, she spiraled. The pieces fell into place. Claire wasn't the villain. She was drowning. And she didn't know how to ask for help." The back door opened gently and Claire stepped outside. Her eyes were puffy, cheeks blotchy, hands tucked into her sleeves. But there was something new in her expression, fear, but not at me. Fear of losing everything. "Daniel," she whispered, "I didn't know you told her." He shook his head. "I didn't. She heard us last night." Claire's face sank. "Oh my God." She looked at me, eyes filling instantly. "I'm so sorry," she choked. I never meant to hurt you. I just didn't want you to think Daniel had been hiding something horrible, or that he was a bad father. He didn't know. He didn't know." Her voice broke and she pressed her hands to her face. Daniel stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her. She melted into him, shoulders shaking, and for the first time ever, I saw Claire not as the woman who didn't like me, but as someone who had carried a grief she didn't know how to hold. Someone who had been terrified of losing the fragile family she fought to keep together. Someone who had been hurting far more than she let on. I stepped closer. "Claire," I whispered, "I don't hate you." She looked up, mascara smudged. "You should." "I don't," I said softly. "And I won't." She broke down again, this time in relief. And that's when I realized this wasn't a family falling apart. This was a family finally telling the truth, a truth that hurt, but also healed. But as heavy as this moment was, I didn't yet know the full truth, because Daniel had told me who her was, but he hadn't told me why they kept it hidden so aggressively. And I hadn't seen the papers yet, or the signature, or the name I didn't know was coming. A name that would shake everything again. A name I wasn't even remotely prepared for. Because Emily wasn't the only one on those records. And whatever Claire was hiding, it wasn't over. Not even close. For the next 2 days, I didn't hear from Daniel. Not a call, not a text, not even a lazy good morning emoji like he usually sends. Silence. I wasn't sure if he was avoiding me, or if something was happening inside that house. Either way, it kept me awake. I'd sit at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, staring at the dark window like answers were going to appear in the reflection. They didn't. Instead, my mind replayed Claire's shaking voice. "Your mom." She's gonna find out about her. Her, a sister he never told me about, and Daniel's response, I'm scared of what she'll think when she finds out why. Those words echoed louder than any Christmas carol stuck in my head, because no matter how many possibilities I ran through, none of them ended with something small. Whatever this secret was, it was big enough that Claire lived in fear of it. Big enough that Daniel thought I'd hate him for it. And worst of all, big enough that he was willing to let his own mother walk out the door without stopping her. By the third day, I cracked. I pulled up to Daniel's house around 4 p.m, cold, grey, snow piled against the curb. But before I even got out, I noticed something off. Daniel's truck wasn't in the driveway. Neither was Claire's car. The house looked abandoned, not lived in, not warm, just still. I knocked twice on the door before letting myself in with the spare key he gave me years ago. The moment I stepped inside, I froze. The house was a mess, not trash. Everywhere mess. Not kids were playing mess. Panic mess. Drawers left open. A suitcase half packed on the couch. Lily's jacket tossed on the floor like someone grabbed her in a hurry. What the hell happened in here? I whispered. I walked slowly, listening to the house breathe. In the kitchen, a mug of coffee sat on the counter, half drunk, now cold. Claire's favourite mug. The one with the cracked handle she refused to throw out. On the table, a piece of paper, folded once, placed dead centre like someone wanted it to be seen. I picked it up. My heart nearly stopped. It was a birth certificate. And on the mother line, Claire Thompson. Father line, unknown. My hands went clammy. It wasn't Daniel's. It wasn't old. It was dated 8 years ago. 8 years, almost the exact length of time they've been married. I sank into a chair, my mind spinning so fast I felt dizzy. Claire had a child. Before Daniel, a child she hid, a child she supposedly placed for adoption. Why would Claire hide that? Why would Daniel hide that? Why wouldn't she tell him before they married? Questions piled on top of each other until my head felt ready to split. Then I noticed a second page under the birth certificate. Another folded document. I opened it. And my entire world shifted sideways. It wasn't adoption paperwork. It was a hospital record. The kind they file when a child is born with complications. At the top, in bold letters, Neonatal Critical Care Unit, Admission Report. My throat tightened. Baby girl Thompson. Severe respiratory distress. Unstable vitals. Transferred to specialized facility. Then one line I could barely read without the words blurring. Patient left the facility with unauthorized individual. Report filed. Investigation pending. I dropped the pages. My legs shook under the table. Unauthorized individual. Investigation pending. This wasn't a secret child. This was something else. Something worse. Before I could process it, the front door opened behind me. I spun around. Daniel. He stepped inside slowly, covered in snow, his face drained of colour. We stared at each other. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. Like someone burying a truth so heavy it was dragging him into the ground. "Mom," he whispered. I held up the papers. His face crumpled. "You know?" he said quietly. It wasn't a question. "I know enough," I replied. My voice shook. "Enough to know you should have told me years ago." He didn't move, didn't defend himself, didn't breathe, just whispered. "She took her." My chest tightened. "Daniel, what do you mean she?" He ran a hand through his hair, pacing like he was rehearsing the worst confession of his life. I was 20, barely an adult. Claire and I were on and off. We weren't even together when it happened. He swallowed hard. She hid the pregnancy from everyone. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. She didn't tell me until after the baby was born, when everything was already a disaster. I stared in shock. Why would she hide something like that? He looked me dead in the eyes. Because the father wasn't me. A cold wave washed through me. I sat down. He kept going. When the baby was born, she had complications. They had her in NICU for days. Claire was spiraling. She kept saying she didn't deserve to be a mother, that she made a mistake. Daniel paused, voice cracking. Then one morning, she disappeared. Baby gone. Claire gone. Security footage caught her leaving with the baby wrapped in a blanket. His jaw tightened. Hospital called the police. They treated it like a kidnapping. I covered my mouth with my hand. He nodded slowly, eyes full of haunting guilt. They found her 2 days later at some rundown Airbnb outside the city. The baby was barely breathing. Jesus, Daniel. His voice broke. They saved her. But Child Protective Services took over. And Claire, she wasn't allowed to keep custody, not even supervised. I felt my stomach twist painfully. Where is the baby now? I whispered. Daniel closed his eyes. With an adoptive family. Safe. Healthy. We got updates for a while, but then we stopped asking. It was too painful for her. I looked around the messy house, the panic, the rush. You said she took Lily? He nodded. She had a breakdown last night. Said she didn't deserve to be a mother again. Said she was terrified she'd mess her up too. His voice cracked. I tried to calm her down. But when I woke up this morning, he swallowed hard. Lily was gone. The room went cold. My heart dropped to the floor. Daniel, where is she now? He shook his head, tears filling his eyes. I don't know, Mom. I don't know. His voice cracked in half. Claire left her phone behind, took her car, took Lily. No note. I felt my own breath catch. Did you call the police? He nodded. They're looking. Looking where? He looked up at me, eyes empty. They think she might be headed to the same place she took the first baby. My whole body tensed. That rundown Airbnb? He nodded. That's where they're searching first. I grabbed his arm. Daniel, we need to go. Before I could finish, his phone rang. He answered instantly. Hello? Yes. This is Daniel Thompson. A long silence. His face drained of colour. Then slowly, his knees buckled. Is she okay? He whispered. Another pause. I felt like the walls were closing in. He squeezed his eyes shut. Okay, we're coming now. He hung up. I grabbed his shoulders. Daniel, what did they say? He looked at me, tears sliding down his face. They found the car. I felt sick. Where's Lily? I asked, barely breathing. His voice came out strangled. They're not sure yet. My blood turned to ice. Not sure yet, not sure. That meant I didn't want to finish the thought. Daniel's voice cracked completely as he whispered, Mom, they said the car was empty. God, no. And Claire? He swallowed hard. Gone. My legs nearly gave out. This was no longer just a secret, no longer a hidden past. This was real, this was happening. And it was happening to my granddaughter, my son, my family. This wasn't the Christmas Claire wished I'd disappear from. This was the Christmas where everything we knew, everything we trusted, was shattering right in front of us. Daniel gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. I sat beside him, staring out the window as winter fields blurred by, my thoughts racing faster than the car. The sky was grey, not storm grey, heavy grey, like it knew something bad was coming. After nearly an hour of silence, Daniel finally spoke. I should have put her in therapy sooner. I should have forced it. I shouldn't have... Stop, I said softly. Don't do that. It's my fault, he snapped. All of it. No, Daniel. Claire isn't well. That's not something you control. He didn't answer. He just kept driving like he had one mission. Get to his daughter. The Airbnb was exactly what I expected. And worse. a rundown single-story cabin at the end of a narrow gravel road, the kind of place people rented for cheap fishing trips or to hide from the world. When we pulled up, police tape was already stretched across the front porch. 2 patrol cars. A detective SUV. Daniel parked crooked, practically jumping out before the engine stopped. I followed him, heart pounding. A detective stepped forward, tall, late 40s, stern face softened by tired eyes. "Daniel Thompson?" he asked. "Yes," Daniel breathed. "Where is she? Where's my daughter?" The detective exhaled. "Let's talk inside." Daniel went pale. I grabbed his arm, steadying him. Inside, the cabin was cold, dusty, quiet. The detective led us through the small living room over creaking wood floors. "First," he said slowly, "we want you to understand what we found gives us reason to believe your daughter is alive." My knees nearly buckled in relief. Daniel covered his face with his hands and exhaled shakily. "But," the detective continued, "we still haven't located Claire." Daniel swallowed hard. "What happened here?" The detective stopped in the small kitchen. On the table sat a half-eaten apple, a child-sized glove, Claire's scarf, but no signs of a struggle. There were footprints in the snow, the detective said. Adult and child, leading into the woods. Daniel tensed. Into the woods? Alone? We don't believe they're alone. My heart dropped. The detective looked at us carefully. There was a second set of adult footprints. I blinked. What do you mean? Who? We don't know yet, the detective replied. Could be someone passing through. Could be someone she contacted. I felt something cold slide down my spine. Contacted. Like the message I saw on her phone. You promised her. A sinking feeling hit my stomach. Detective, I said slowly, Claire received a message the night of Christmas from an unknown number. It said, I know, he interrupted. I froze. Daniel turned to him sharply. What do you mean you know? The detective rubbed the bridge of his nose. Claire has been in communication with someone for the past month. A woman. My heart thudded. A woman, Daniel repeated. Yes, someone involved in the investigation 8 years ago. The room suddenly felt smaller, colder. The detective continued, choosing every word carefully. The woman claims to be the adoptive mother of Claire's first child. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Paralyzing. What? Daniel whispered. I could barely move. She contacted Claire recently, the detective said. Reached out, saying she wanted to reconnect. Claimed the child, now 8, is asking questions. Wanted to know where she came from. I felt dizzy. The detective's words hit like punches. Claire wasn't being blackmailed. She wasn't being threatened. She was being haunted. She thought reconnecting would help her heal, the detective said, but instead, it triggered her. Triggered. Triggered enough to make her run. Triggered enough to think taking Lily was protecting her. Triggered enough to be hiding in the woods with a stranger's help. Daniel stepped backward, hand gripping the counter. Oh my God, he whispered. She's reliving everything. The detective nodded. We believe she's trying to meet with the adoptive mother, maybe even reunite. But her mental state is unstable. We're concerned she may not understand the danger she's placing your daughter in. I felt sick, Daniel whispered. So Lily's with Claire? And this stranger? In the woods? The detective didn't sugarcoat it. Yes, they sent a search team into the woods. Daniel tried to join them, he even argued. But they made him stay in the cabin in case Claire returned. He paced like a caged animal. They shouldn't have let her contact that woman, he said angrily. They shouldn't have let her get those messages. He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes slowly lifted toward me. Mom. I froze. What? I asked. Daniel's voice dropped to a whisper filled with sudden terrifying realization. Mum, that message you saw on Claire's phone. My heart slammed. Unknown number. "We need to talk, you promised her." He stepped closer. "That wasn't from the adoptive mother." I swallowed hard. "Daniel, what are you saying?" He pointed toward the second page I found, the NICU escape report. "Mom, 8 years ago when she disappeared with the first baby, she wasn't alone." My breath caught in my throat. "What?" "She didn't act alone," he repeated. "Someone helped her leave the hospital. Someone who said they would take care of it." I whispered, "A woman?" Daniel nodded. My chest tightened, but not the adoptive mother. "Then who?" I asked. He looked at me, eyes wide, terrified, realizing something he didn't want to believe. "The investigation filed a name," he said quietly. "A woman who signed in under a fake ID. Someone who visited NICU patients pretending to be a hospital volunteer." My skin prickled. "Who was she?" He took a breath. "The file said she was Claire's biological mother." I went numb, completely numb. Claire's mother. The one Claire always described as dead to her. The one she never talked about. The one Daniel said left when Claire was a teenager. "She disappeared years ago," Daniel said. "Claire hasn't seen her since. Police never located her for questioning." My hands shook. "Daniel, you think Claire's mother is the person who contacted her?" He nodded, voice cracking. "And if she helped Claire take a baby once," his eyes filled with tears, "she might help her do it again." A wave of cold panic slammed through me. This wasn't just a runaway mother. This wasn't just trauma resurfacing. This was multi-generational, deeply rooted madness repeating itself. Claire wasn't alone in those woods. She was with the one person capable of pushing her over the edge, her mother, and my granddaughter was caught between them. Before I could speak, a loud crack echoed from outside. Not a gunshot, not a door, a tree branch snapping under weight. Daniel's eyes went wide. He sprinted to the window. I followed. Out in the tree line, barely visible through the snow, a figure stepped out of the woods. Small, bundled up, moving slowly. A child. Daniel lurched forward. "Lily!" But before he could reach the door, a second figure stepped out behind her. Then a third. 2 women, one younger, one older, Claire and her mother. The older woman had her hand on Lily's shoulder. But the older woman? Her eyes were bright, focused, like this was a plan years in the making. As they moved closer, the older woman whispered something to Claire. And Claire nodded, like she had surrendered every piece of herself. And my granddaughter, my sweet Lily, was inches away from the woman who once helped steal a baby. And might be trying to do it again. The detective shouted for backup. Daniel pushed past him, sprinting toward the porch. Snow kicked up behind him. His voice cracked the air. "Lily! Baby! Run to me!" And Lily did. She bolted forward, slipping in the snow, crying out, "Daddy!" But she didn't make it far, because the older woman grabbed her arm. Hard. Claire screamed. Daniel screamed. And in that frozen moment, I understood something with sickening clarity. This wasn't about Claire wanting me gone. Someone who whispered in her daughter's ear for years. Someone who vanished and reappeared only when she wanted something. Someone dangerous. Someone who believed Lily was hers to take, and she was willing to drag Claire down with her to do it. I never understood how fast a family could fall apart until that night in the woods. One minute we were screaming into the dark, Claire shaking, Daniel broken, Lily crying, and the next minute everything just snapped. Not loudly. Quietly, like a rope finally giving up after holding too much weight for too long. The police lights flashed through the trees as officers approached, slowing when they realized Claire wasn't a kidnapper, just a woman hanging on by the last thread of her sanity. They didn't arrest her. They didn't accuse her. They just spoke softly like she was a fragile glass they were afraid to set down too quickly. "Mom, you're not in trouble, but we need to talk to you." Claire barely reacted. Her eyes were empty, fixed on Lily's face as if memorizing it before the world took her away. Lily ran straight into my arms, shaking uncontrollably. Daniel collapsed beside us, head in his hands, crying in a way I had never seen from him, not even when Emily died. And Claire just whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." On repeat, like her mind was stuck on a broken track. Nobody spoke. Lily sat beside me in the back, holding my hand so tightly my fingers went numb. Daniel drove with both hands shaking. Claire was in the passenger seat, staring out the window like the world outside was something she no longer recognized. The silence felt like a funeral. And in a way, it was. Something in that car was dying. Trust, innocence, the version of our family we were desperately pretending still existed. When we walked inside, the Christmas lights were still glowing gently in the living room. They looked wrong, too happy, too bright, like they were decorating a crime scene. Claire collapsed onto the couch, pulling her knees to her chest. Daniel stood across from her, shaking with anger and heartbreak. Why Claire? Just why? Why would you take her like that? Why lie? Why sneak out? Why make us think? Claire cut him off, voice small, trembling. Because I thought if I kept Lily close, she wouldn't hate me one day the way I hated my mother. Her confession hit the room hard. She wasn't dangerous, she wasn't malicious, she was drowning. Daniel sat down slowly, tears sliding down his face. Claire, you scared us. You scared me. You terrified Lily and my mum. God, she thought she lost another child tonight. Claire didn't look at me. Maybe she couldn't face the reflection of what she'd done. Daniel spoke again, but softer this time, like a man reaching the end of himself. Claire, we need help. Real help. Not excuses. Not apologies. You need therapy. You need treatment. I can't pretend this is normal anymore. Claire wiped her face with trembling hands. I know I need help. But I don't want to do it alone. What are you saying? Daniel asked. Claire breathed in deeply, then looked up with eyes full of quiet resignation. I think we need time apart. Daniel flinched like someone stabbed him. Lily burst into tears again. I felt my chest crack open. Claire continued, I love you. I love our daughter. But I'm not safe for either of you right now, and I refuse to become the mother. Mine was. Daniel reached for her hand, but she pulled away gently. I'll check into treatment. Not tomorrow. Tonight. I already searched for a place earlier. I knew I wasn't okay. Her voice broke. I just didn't want to admit it. Daniel was silent for a long time before whispering, I'll drive you. Packing took minutes. A small suitcase. Her coat. One framed photo of her and Lily from last summer. When she bent down to hug Lily, her entire body trembled. I love you, baby. Mommy's coming back when she's better, okay? When I can be the mom you deserve. Lily cried into her shoulder. Please don't leave. Claire sobbed like the ground was breaking beneath her feet. I'm not leaving you. I'm leaving the part of me that hurts everyone. Her words felt like a knife coated in love. She hugged me last. I'm sorry for everything. You didn't deserve... I stopped her with a hug. You're sick, honey. You're not evil, remember that, she whispered. Thank you for not hating me. Daniel and Claire drove away together, and when the door finally shut behind them, the house felt colder than winter itself. Lily curled into my lap on the couch, exhausted from crying. I stroked her hair until she fell asleep, whispering the same thing over and over. You're safe now. Everything's going to be okay. But honestly, I didn't know if it would. Claire entered treatment. Daniel visited her twice a week, and I stayed with Lily, holding the family together the best I could. But here's the twist most people won't expect. Christmas came again, and Claire didn't return. Not because she didn't want to, not because she didn't try, but because recovery is not a straight road. Daniel eventually told me the truth. She asked me to keep Lily with you long term. She said, you're the only one who can give her stability right now. It wasn't a punishment. It wasn't abandonment. It was sacrifice. And, sacrifice, is its own kind of love. On Christmas Eve, Lily handed me a drawing she made at school. It was our family, me, her, Daniel, and Claire. But Claire was on the right side of the page, standing a little apart with one hand reaching toward us. A small message was written at the top. "Mommy's healing. We'll be together soon." I cried harder than I had all year. Because the truth is, my daughter-in-law wanted me to disappear once, but in the end, I became the one person she trusted to hold her family together while she rebuilt herself.